The regional American chambers of commerce are critical links in the hemispheric business chain which encompasses the United States and its regional partners. In fact, we received recently a note from the Ministry of Trade in Colombia about how are we going to further this, the trading links between Trinidad and Tobago and Colombia. And therefore, this region is of great interest to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. But let me, before proceeding further, congratulate, of course, Simon Acquis on his reappointment as president of AmCham. And I am sure that under your stewardship, the organization will continue its efforts to increase trade and investment in Trinidad and Tobago by the many companies you represent and those who you will encourage to invest or locate here in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, over the years, Trinidad and Tobago and the United States have enjoyed robust, dynamic, and cordial commercial relations. United States trade and investment ties with Trinidad and Tobago have always been extremely strong and have increased substantially in the last several years due to economic liberalization. U.S. firms have invested more than $1 billion in recent years, mostly in the petrochemical, oil and gas, and iron and steel sectors. Trinidad and Tobago, like the rest of the world, is emerging from the recent global economic slowdown. And after recording positive economic growth, I think we all know those figures, positive economic growth for 16 consecutive years, even though the other day in Parliament, those on the other side said we had 60 years of consecutive growth. And I tried my level best to tell him it was not 60, it was 16. But you know how the Parliament in Trinidad operates. So when you're right, you're wrong, and when you're wrong, well, I guess you're more wrong. But yes, after 16 years of economic growth right through till 2008, and then of course everything hit, well, it wasn't good, no, not the fan. But then there was that decline in 2009, and of course in 2010, Trinidad's real GDP was estimated at $14.4 billion US, translating into a real per capita GDP of approximately 11,000 US. The growth rate was estimated in 2010 at 0.1%, and it is projected, of course, for 2011 between 2 to 2.5, depending on who you listen to and depending on what time and what period they're quoting. So I think we definitely, at least we're on the right track. The United States, of course, is Trinidad and Tobago's largest trading partner, absorbing 52% of our exports and providing approximately 31% of our imports. And those figures are quoted for 2009. During this period, Trinidad and Tobago's domestic exports to the U.S. were valued at 29 billion TT dollars, while imports totaled 13.5 billion, leaving us with a positive $15.5 billion, of course, in favor of Trinidad and Tobago. And while energy-related products such as natural gas and methanol, ammonia, and urea dominated Trinidad and Tobago's exports to the U.S., there are a whole host of other products that we have started really and truly pushing to get into the United States. And a wide range of items, of course, is imported from the U.S. However, you know, those are areas like machinery and parts and what have you. But we are trying our level best to increase the non-oil exports to the U.S. Trinidad and Tobago trades with the U.S. primarily under the programs known collectively as the CBI, the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which are vital elements in the U.S. economic relations with its neighbors in Central America and in the Caribbean. And the CBI is intended to facilitate the economic development and export diversification of the Caribbean Basin economies. Initially launched in 1983, and substantially expanded in 2000, of course, the Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act, as it's now called, entered into force on October the 1st, 2000, and we now have it in effect until September the 30th, 2010. So we still have a number of years that we can take advantage of that. Just yesterday, and I'm pretty sure everybody in this room received the email on Moody's Investor Services, released its annual sovereign report on Trinidad and Tobago, and the report stated that Trinidad and Tobago's Baa1 government bond ratings and stable outlook are supported by relatively high levels of economic development, a very strong external position, still low government debt levels, and a solid institutional framework. Per capita GDP is almost double the median of the BAA sovereigns, the result of our key energy sector, explained Moody's. But ratings are limited by concerns about future growth, and I know that is something that is constantly being asked, and a whole host of other things. I hasten to add, however, that government has had to undertake a number of measures to ensure that this country's recovery from the downturn, and measures are being put in place to offset these factors that have been cited as cause for concern. And I think, in fairness to the Minister of Finance, what Trinidad and Tobago was able to achieve over the last year was very, very admirable. And I don't think we have seen a Minister of Finance like that is willing to really and truly take the bull by the horns and do what is absolutely necessary. And what we did from May the 24th of last year was absolutely necessary. And therefore, we are looking forward now to our 11-12 budget, which I'm pretty sure is going to start seeing the various elements of a substantial turnaround in the economy. The Moody's report also stated that former fiscal savings mechanisms, which have led to savings of 18% of GDP, have strong support across the political spectrum and are an example of the country's strong institutions. And while these ratings are positive, as a responsible government, we must ensure that we take this opportunity to transform our economy. And we have committed ourselves to strengthening and modernizing local business enterprises and to creating an environment for business to develop and flourish. Our principal concerns are increasing competitiveness and sustainable export-led economic growth. And to this end, we are aggressively pursuing several initiatives. Government recognizes that viable, competitive economic enterprises which enjoy favorable access to international markets are critical components of economic development. And we believe that continuing the process of trade liberalization will promote further economic diversification and sustainable growth. Consequently, we are committed to integrating the local economy into the global trading environment. And of course, at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, my mandate is to work towards diversifying the economy, and we are in fact doing that, and we're doing it in many different areas. When we talk about oil and gas, of course, exporting raw material is not the way in which you do it. We need to add value to every single thing that we do. We need to add value to every cubic foot of gas that is produced, every barrel of oil that is produced. And there are a number of projects. Of course, we know about the melamine project and a host of other things that we are looking at doing, whereby we will not only export raw material, that it will be processed here. And it's quite amazing now that we're in the seat there to see what can in fact be done. And again, there's a host, just huge amounts of investment opportunities, not only for foreign direct investment, but of course very much for local. As you would know, trade with our third largest trading partner, the European Union, is now governed by the Economic Partnership Agreement, which mandates a system of reciprocity in terms of access to each other's markets. And given this duty-free, quota-free access to the 27 markets of the EU, we are working to increase our level of competitiveness and openness to trade. The Ministry of Trade and Industry's focus is on implementing EPA obligations and working with the private sector to take advantage of the opportunities created by this agreement. And as we committed early on in the year, the EPA implementation unit at the Ministry of Trade and Industry opens this week. So we really and truly hope that working with both private sector organizations and individuals, that our local businesses will be able to take much more advantage of the EU. As part of CARICOM, we are also currently engaged in negotiations with Canada towards a reciprocal trade and development agreement to replace the existing preferential Caribbean agreement. And while Trinidad and Tobago currently has some access to the Canadian market for goods, the new agreement will seek to make such arrangements permanent, negotiate for the removal of many of the existing non-trade barriers to improve access, and negotiate for market access for service providers. The Caribbean agreement is presenting us with some challenges because it is a CARICOM agreement and not an agreement with Trinidad and Tobago. and therefore we have to work with all the territories within CARICOM, and it's getting there, but it's taking a little longer than we had expected. Recognizing that our strategic geographic position between North and South is an ideal launching pad for economic initiatives, we are in fact pursuing the parallel goals of national and regional development, knowing that one is firmly entwined with the other. And I've said it many, many times, a strong CARICOM is a strong Trinidad and Tobago, and we have to realize and understand that if the CARICOM territories have healthy economies, then they are Trinidad and Tobago's largest, as far as export of manufactured goods, the CARICOM is our biggest customer. And of course, if the economies are healthy in CARICOM, then everything else works well. So it is important that we support CARICOM as much as anything else. It was this focus which led to the first Caribbean Investment Week, which encompassed the Caribbean Investment Forum and the annual Trade and Investment Convention. The Caribbean Investment Forum was designed as a critical platform for strengthening trade and investment between the Caribbean, the Americas, and our Commonwealth partners. Of course, our Commonwealth partners are we are members of one of 54 countries in the Commonwealth with approximately $4 trillion US dollars in trade a year. And I know historically we have always dealt with England, we have always dealt with North America, with CARICOM, but the rest of the Commonwealth, we never really took it on. But when you think of the population and also the volume of trade between the Commonwealth countries, it is quite substantial. And what we're hoping is that with the CIF that we had this year, that we will continue that Caribbean Investment Forum as part of the Caribbean Investment Week on an annual basis. During the CIF, over 300 local and international participants engaged in discussions and investment activities during the 2 days and laid the foundation for greater business activity within this region. And I must say, at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we received many, many letters of complimenting us on what was done. And I think for next year, we will, it will only get better. Moving on from the CIF, government also plans to host the China Caribbean Economic and Trade Forum in September of this year, and where the Chinese government officials and business people will gather in Trinidad and Tobago to meet with their regional counterparts. And I'm sure most of the businesses here today will take advantage of the opportunities that this forum would provide. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Trade and Industry is fully committed to the public-private sector partnership model of development. Indeed, this approach forms the basis of our policy formulation activities. We always welcome the opportunity to meet with our private sector stakeholders in large gatherings such as this, in our technical sessions or on one-to-one interactions. And while the role of government is to facilitate trade and business, it is equally important for the private sector to take the lead, to penetrate new markets, to pursue investment and business opportunities between Trinidad and Tobago and other nations. And we are pleased that your AmCham members have followed this pattern and continue to contribute to the economic development of our country. And in fact, with the American Chamber, we were down in Guatemala recently. We have just concluded, or about to conclude an agreement with Panama. We have, again, we will start the Guatemala agreement at the beginning of 2012. And we view Central America, which again is another 40 million people. And when you look at the territories that touch the Caribbean Sea, other than Colombia and Venezuela, you're looking at close to 80 million customers. So it really and truly is very, very important that we build this region like that. And those 80 million customers come from the English-speaking Caribbean, from the Dutch and French islands, of course, Cuba, Santo Domingo, and Haiti. And then, of course, Central America with another 40 million. So it is absolutely critical that we create those very, very strong trading links. And, of course, trading links comes also with air and sea connections, which, again, has been a major problem. The typical connections go north-south. Very few of them go east-west. So these are things that we are, in fact, looking at.